I love to start every segment. Growing up with Jehovah's Witnesses, it limited our friendship base, I think, in certain ways, or at least made it very, very different.
Yeah. Well, not going to school hampered that too.
Yeah, definitely.
Hard to know people our age.
Right. So a lot of the friends that we ended up making friendships with was through our Kingdom Hall. And what I mean by, interesting things do sometimes come out of that. There are different age groups that you end up going to Applebee's with after a meeting, stuff like that. And one friend, when did he come into our lives? He was friends with our uncle first.
Yeah.
And then he kind of adapted himself to our family.
I remember hanging out with him from a pretty young age.
Yeah, me too.
Via Barry, hanging out with our Uncle Barry, like we'd hang out with him.
Yeah.
And then Uncle Barry moved to Yakima, and this guy was just like so immature anyway. Even though he was older, I mean, I think he was like 30.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like, it's just strange the friendship we ended up developing with him. Yeah. Let's just call him by name because it's going to be hard otherwise. Okay. Bob.
I thought we were building up to that.
His name is Bob. I don't want to say was because I don't want to give away the fact that he dies in the end.
Owner of Bam Bam's Towing in Tacoma, Washington.
That's correct.
I still have my shirt.
Yeah, I know. I tried to steal that shirt from you several times. But yeah, so Bob he was friends with our uncle while we were living in Tacoma. Then Barry moved away, and so despite the fact that he was probably 30 or more even at that time, I was 16, you were 14, 15, and he just started hanging out with us.
Yeah,
and like he'd take us to do the most random things. I can't think of any really good examples.
We'd break into the zoo after hours. Remember that? Was that with him or was that?
No, that was after he had died. We kind of
right.
did that in remembrance of, which gives you an idea of the type of shit we would do with him. But the thing about Bob was
he'd drive around in his tow truck and his bus. He lived in a bus for a while.
Yeah, he had a very strange lifestyle, very strange family.
Mom and Dad hated him.
Oh, yeah, they did.
He was just a real funny, enjoyable, never upset kind of guy.
But he was very irresponsible for the age that he was. I remember we would, because he had friends over in Yakima, too, outside of our uncle.
Yeah.
And we had family here, so when he'd go to Yakima, he'd sometimes let us ride along with him.
Yeah.
And he'd be going 110, 120 most of the way. Like, he just didn't have much common sense. But when you're 14 and 16 years old, do you think that's kind of interesting and fun in a way?
Yeah, and I think I still would. I would still think he's awesome.
Yeah, but that is pretty dangerous.
I go hang out with his corpse like all the time.
We'll get to his death.
Okay,
Hold on.
Okay.
But even before we get to that,
I want to say that Mom and Dad, Mom will send us a comment saying that I always loved Bob. They did not.
No,
Mom and Dad did not like Bob.
No, they didn't. And it was just this. It couldn't have been like they weren't worried about us or our relationship with Bob.
It was a really innocent friendship. They just didn't like him on a personal level. That he was always late. And I don't even think even in their bitterness they never said that it was weird that he was hanging out with us when we were so young.
No. But yeah, so it was kind of weird though in certain respects. Like he would come over,
but we wouldn't have
I rented some
sleepovers.
Movies. No, well, in a way, like we were living in the big house, Mom was running the daycare, and there were certain times Bob would come over, he'd have rented some movies, he's always buying our food. I think that's a lot of the reason I was hanging out with him too.
Yeah.
Like he had that huge checkbook and he just so anyway, like he would come over and sometimes crash in our couch, and then daycare kids would be showing up at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
But that was just but I think it's safe to say Bob had a bad reputation within our religion locally.
Yeah, but I mean that's such bullshit. Like he was
I don't know. He was very absent-minded, and so everything that people were pissed at him about and could hold grudges over were just based on the fact that he was kind of aloof guy.
Yeah.
He'd our friend Patrick made the joke one time because Bob, he wouldn't mean to, but he'd get overexcited in certain situations and either just piss people off with his excitement or do something that could injure or hurt somebody.
He was reckless.
And the joke I was getting at was our friend Patrick had a daughter. He has a daughter. She was only 2 or 3 years old at the time, and he'd heard that Bob was going to come visit, and Bob was supposed to come visit, and then couldn't make it for some reason. And Patrick's joke was, I guess I'm going to have to hurt my daughter myself now.
Did you never hear the story building up to that? There was a group of people, and Bob threw a football into the group of people, and it hit Lissy in the face.
His 2 or 3 year old daughter at the time.
It hit her in the face. So this was like the next time he was going to see him, and he said, I'll have to hurt her myself this time.
Yeah. So Bob became friends with us, and then we kind of took Bob for granted in a lot of ways. Like
Yeah, I
we started
agree.
developing attitudes towards him at the end.
Yeah, we were angsty. Our parents were getting divorced.
Yeah, our parents were. That was right around the same time.
We
You're
were
correct.
sheltered.
And what's funny is Bob was a good enough guy that when our parents were getting divorced, he was coming over and like not only just to hang out with us, but to also like support mom and dad in the time that they felt they needed it. And I think that's the one time they truly did appreciate his presence.
And when Grandpa, Mom's dad died, in our house, he came over and he was
consoling and
yeah,
he was good for things like that, and that's why they should have appreciated him more than they did.
For fixing their car several times.
Yeah, he was very handy in that way as well. But let's get right to it then. Was it 1997 or 1998?
I don't remember. It had to be 98.
It had only been probably 2-3 weeks since we'd seen Bob last, but he wasn't hanging out with us nearly as often at this point. And but we still went to the same congregation as him, and he hadn't been showing up to meetings, but that's not necessarily unusual.
Yeah, he would go in streaks of never coming.
Right. And so we didn't really think much of it. And then I remember Dad, this is after Mom had divorced, so all of a sudden he had a religious stride again.
He
and
wanted to go to the Kingdom Hall and have people say, "I'm so sorry."
Right.
And he could say, "All I know about her new boyfriend is that he's black." That's what he loved to say to everybody.
So he went to church to garner sympathy.
Yeah.
And on this particular night, we stayed home.
Right.
It was just me and you at the house.
Right. And I want to make sure you set the scene.
Okay,
We're
go for
sitting there in the living room
waiting for
watching
Dad
TV
to come home from church.
so we could go rent movies.
Right.
And he walks in the door, and this is how the asshole delivers it. I mean, Bob was truly a great friend of ours. And he goes, "Hey, guys, I just want to let you know I was at the meeting today, and they made an announcement. Bob Meacham died." And, we had whatever immediate reactions we had. "Are you joking?" Whatever like that. And he's like, "No, yeah, Bob Meacham died." Goes in his room, get changed. "Who's ready to go to the video store?" And who was ready? You, Nick. You went with him. I stayed behind.
You stayed behind?
And then, I sprinted because you guys were taking a long time, and I was all emotional. You don't remember that?
I don't remember that part of it.
That's 18 blocks. That was from 64th Avenue to from 82nd to 64th.
Oh, so you sprinted to the video store?
To the video store, yeah, and caught up with you guys. And you're like, "Hey, what movie do you want to rent?" And I said, "Nick, Bob died." "Shut up, faggot." "What movie you want to rent?" "Steel Magnolias."
If I had made that joke, kudos to me, because that's pretty funny.
That would have been genius.
They announced it at the meeting that we weren't there for. All of a sudden, our friend Bob was dead.
Yeah.
And, there was no reason for it. He was in good health and, 30, 35 years old probably.
Yeah.
And so details start to leak out. And
about kind of his, or I guess of his death too, yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
But I mean, of his life leading up to death, when we weren't seeing him so much before he died.
Yeah, what was going on there? It was a lot of financial struggle, wasn't it?
Yeah, and there's the couch story.
Yeah, okay. If one were to believe in demons possessing a body, then
Which
my
Jehovah's
uncle
Witnesses do.
Which Jehovah's Witnesses do, and my uncle, as a Jehovah's Witness, told the story. He was living in a house with Bob and a couple other people, I guess. A couple years before he died, it probably was.
Yeah.
And
no, within the same year.
Okay. And so Bob, strange guy anyway, Barry was talking to his girlfriend, who later became his wife, who is now his divorcee. He was talking to her on the phone before he'd gone to live with her in New York. And I guess he was in his room, and if you remember details of the story, I don't, feel free to contribute.
Okay.
But he was on the phone with Amber, and then he heard some muffling coming from the living room.
Yeah.
Like a muffled scream, I guess
he described it as.
Yeah. So he hears something, and I guess after a little while he goes to check it out, and he goes into the living room, which appears to be empty. But he can still hear the muffled scream of
Nice.
I wonder how that comes across on mic.
I think I was better.
Yeah, okay.
I had the tone.
And so after a little while, I guess Barry figures it out. He hangs up the phone. They had a hide-a-bed couch, which the cushions were on top of.
Yeah,
like
it was
fully
a
laid
made
as
couch.
it should be. It was a made couch, and he takes off the couch cushion, pulls out the hide-a-bed, and Bob is stuck within the couch.
Well, before that, he said he took off the cushions, and there's Bob's head and one arm sticking out, and he's covering his face. He's
covering his face.
hiding his face. So then Barry lets out the whole hide-a-bed.
Yeah. So, excuse me. So Barry pulls out the hide-a-bed, and Bob reveals himself. And not only is he stuck in the couch that was somehow miraculously made again, but he was in makeup and a wig. Is that right?
I don't remember the wig. Definitely ladies' makeup.
Pretty sure there was a wig.
There very well could have been, but then what would hiding his face accomplish?
And when Barry discovers this strange as fuck situation,
Yeah.
what is Bob's reaction? He doesn't want to talk about it, right?
Yeah.
He just shuffles off.
And he says, "Don't tell Amber about this."
Don't tell Amber, or don't tell anybody?
No, he said because he knew Barry was on the phone with Amber, and Barry said that he asked him specifically not to tell Amber.
If I were Barry in Barry's shoes, I'd have shit my pants.
Yeah,
seriously, that gives me chills now.
Especially when you hear the story after he died. And after he died, I asked him, "Did you tell Amber?"
Yes.
Yes, he did.
I was just guessing, but of course he did.
He was like, "How am I not going to tell that to my girlfriend, my future wife?"
My girlfriend, who I have not yet met, but I am going to marry. Internet girlfriend.
12 years my junior, the age of my nephew.
So, yeah, circumstances have always been shady surrounding Bob's death. I guess what had happened was he was living with his mom again, right?
Yeah.
And at 35 years old.
No, it was in that house.
It was in that house.
Yeah, the demons did it.
And how long was he left hanging? That's a little detail to the story before his mom found him.
I don't know.
Okay.
His mom didn't find him, but go ahead.
Oh, who found him? You know the story better than me.
An elder. He was seen at Home Depot, like buying cables and stuff, and then hours later, his mom went to his house. His door was locked, his bedroom door. He wouldn't respond. She could hear his phone ringing in there when she called. His car was there and everything. So she called an elder in the congregation at his name was Hugh Ostrander, and he came and he broke down the door and described it, this is no joke, as something he hopes nobody would ever have to see in their life.
Which is Bob strung up on cables by his neck, right?
Right, hanging
Isn't
by
that what
his
it comes
neck.
down to?
Yeah.
And there was a lot of controversy surrounding that.
People are idiots. People hear that and they automatically think the autoerotic asphyxiation.
Not everybody automatically thinks that. Some people think he just hung himself.
Jackasses.
You don't have to bring the sexuality into it.
But that's what a lot of people did. And people immediately started saying, I heard he busted in and he was hanging and his pants were down around his ankles and he had a big boner. Like these were things that like.
To be fair, doesn't a boner maintain after you die?
I don't know. So who knows how long he was hanging up there. But we heard the story, and then months later, people heard that version of the story. So you can kind of imagine how it went off and got ridiculousized.
Yeah. And it was just crazy, especially because we went to his funeral before we even knew what was really going on with his actual death.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't know if it was a suicide or not, and Jehovah's Witnesses wouldn't have a memorial for suicide. Although our Uncle Barry pointed out that it wasn't a very Jehovah's Witness like. It was like idol worshiping almost. His mom, his mom was nuts anyway.
Oh yeah, she was.
She could not. She flipped when that happened.
Post a picture of his mom.
she was. Oh wow. She was like draping his Bam Bam towing shirts all over the stage of the Kingdom Hall.
Oh yeah, and even after that, after his funeral,
which is fine to do. But it's Jehovah's Witnesses bullshit rule that you can't do that.
Right, and she was doing it anyway.
Yeah.
And not only that, but like we'd mentioned, he had a tow trucking business, Bam Bam's. His nickname was Bam Bam.
Right.
And there was like a whole line of tow trucks that were driving off in his honor and stuff. Like it was a huge deal. And his sister, who's an opera singer, sang "My Heart Will Go On," and our friend laughed, and I was mad because I was so sad, and he found humor in it.
Yeah. That death affected a lot of people in Tacoma.
Oh, it definitely did. And speaking of his mom, she was crazy after it happened. In fact, she got disfellowshipped, I think, primarily due to her craziness after it happened.
Yeah, they told she would always pin like this huge picture of him to her dress, and I believe, much like the smoking thing, like they gave her a set amount of time or something that she had to take it off in.
Wow.
That she had to quit wearing that within this amount of time because it was getting to be whatever they decided it was.
Yeah, but I do remember...
Which it is. It's crazy.
It is crazy,
it's
and
crazy.
I can think of us running into her at the grocery store after it happened.
Man,
and
worst days of my life.
she was always because she knew
I'd rather relive Bob's death.
She knew we were close to her son, and so every time she saw us, she saw it as an opportunity to reminisce about Bob, which we don't want to do, especially in the first few months after it happens.
But she wrote us letters like offering to teach us how to drive because Bob was going to teach us how to drive.
Right. She
Boy,
doesn't
what a
remember
driving lesson that would have been.
all the bad Bob moments. We should come back at with her with. Remember when he ran over PJ's foot with a forklift?
Oh yeah, I got.
Fuck your son. I'm glad he's dead. But no, we didn't do any of that.
Well, we can give mom and dad that. Then he did run over my foot with a forklift and shatter it. So they hated him for somewhat of a reason.
I guess only because it probably cost them a lot in medical bills.
Yeah.
Going back to his funeral really quick. There, like we said, Bob had a reputation within our congregation specifically because that's where we went to.
There were certain people that loved him and certain people that made it known that like they fucking hated him.
And may I just say, we were of the minority that loved him.
Yeah.
He had a bad reputation, and it was just because, like I said before, he just kind of stumbled through things and didn't really have much common sense or courtesy, I guess is what it comes down to. But he was still a genuinely nice, caring, good guy. And if you got to know him, you got to know that. But we were at his funeral, and it was really moving and touching in certain respects. And then other parts of it just piss me off even today when I think about them.
Yeah.
And specifically, like if anybody within the congregation, you and I had the opportunity and the right to tell a story if we wanted to tell a story.
Right.
Because that was the theme of that particular segment, was that you're going to pass the microphone around if you feel like you want to tell a story and what Bob meant to you as a person. So you and I had every right to say something, but partially due to our social awkwardness and partially due to just the blow of all of what has happened.
Yeah, I didn't want to.
I didn't want to either, so we didn't. And then so other people, fucking attention whores who we hated within the congregation and hated Bob and had no right to say one fucking word about who he was as a person, took that opportunity because there were like 400 or 500 people packed into this place built for 200.
Right.
All to commemorate Bob. And they get on the mic and they start fucking spewing about what a great guy he was and how much he always meant to them as a person. And one person in particular, and I'll say her by name, and I wish I had her email address so people could fucking blast her.
She lives in Yakima.
Oh, okay. Kimberly Ladner.
Yeah.
Who's a fucking cunt who just strolls through every meeting like she owns the place, despite the fact that she was never, ever going to have sex. Her religion or not.
Yeah.
She's an unattractive, bloated piece of shit.
I can only imagine what she looks like today.
And she's only 15 or 16 at this time and treated Bob like he was a fucking imbecile.
Yeah.
Every time he was
because
around.
her dad had a lot of power within the congregation. He was a presiding overseer, which is like super elder.
She gets on mic, starts talking about how much she loves Bob, and musters up the fakest fucking cry I've ever heard in my life. Just to garner sympathy within our congregation.
She's doing like the I'm crying so hard you can't understand my words thing, but she's not really crying that hard, so you can hear that all she's saying is run, run.
You're exactly right. Nothing.
It was not a good performance.
That was probably the most mad I'd ever been at that point in my life.
She got the exact reaction she wanted, which was everyone just hurtling towards her to hug her.
Not me. Fuck that bitch. I hurtled towards her to kick her in the vagina.
Yeah, that was awful. And how our mom disfellowshipped at the time. Also,
let's talk about it, PJ. Let's talk about it.
Hating Bob for her entire life, takes up one of the seats, and like you say,
she was freshly disfellowshipped too. And just to remind people, if you're disfellowshipped, you have no right to be in a Kingdom Hall anyway, unless you're trying to get back into it, which she wasn't.
Yeah.
And she also hated Bob. The funeral took place within this Kingdom Hall. She had no right to sit in a seat.
There's 400 or 500 people out there. There's maybe 100 seats.
We didn't sit in a seat, and when he fucking slept on our couch 2 weeks before.
Maybe 20% of the people are standing outside, like friends and family of his. And
having to listen in the cold on a loudspeaker what's going on.
She won't give up her seat, which always made me mad. That is not like Rosa Parks' mom, no matter how many times you try to say it. That was not right.
So on the rare occasion that you do smoke marijuana cigarettes in their marijuana form, do you have one particular guy that you deal with in order to purchase such pot?
I've got a new guy lately, and that's looking a little promising.
Yeah? Well, whatever I smoked tonight was pretty good.
Yeah. You know, you got to think. The guy before, like, delivery was always a plus. It was like
Delivery's
home delivery.
key. I've only recently discovered that.
Yeah, but it was like, who knows when he's going to show up and the quality. Now there's someone else who I pick it up, and it's a little more costly, but man, it's good. And so far, it's very steady.
And when you say you pick it up, how far of a drive is that?
Not very.
That's good. Yeah, I up until recently, I'd say within the last 4 months, the guy I've been dealing with now, it's always been somebody else. Like, I just hand over the money and somebody else deals with it and pretends I don't exist, and then I get it. But then through a friend of mine, I won't say who, but I met this guy, and he's like, oh, yeah, this guy will hook you up. His stuff is generally pretty good, and he'll deliver to your house, which he only does for people within a 3-block radius, which I happen to be.
Which is nice.
Yeah, it's great. And so I'd say 60% of the time since I started buying from this guy, he does end up coming to me. But the other 40% of the time, he asks if I'll come see him, which wasn't part of the agreement at first, but whatever, I'll deal with it.
Yeah.
You know? And it is only a 3-block walk. Although, to be fair, my walk to him is uphill, whereas his walk to me is downhill.
That's true.
But I realize my walk back is downhill, whereas his is uphill.
All right, you get high, you say it's all downhill from here. You print it on a towel and hang it up in the kitchen.
Yeah, why not?
In Grandma's house.
So, yeah, he's a great guy. I think you've met him, haven't you?
I have, yeah.
Yeah. As the transaction was going down, I don't really hang out with him outside of that. But I'll go to his house, and always dependable. Like, there's never been more than a 24-hour wait for my marijuana since I started seeing this guy, which is great.
Yeah.
It is, because I feel like I call with enough. I don't know. I buy it once every paycheck, so once every 2 weeks. And by then I'm raring for it, and he's just waiting for my call. I'm half that guy's income, I swear to God. But, yeah, so I'll go over there, and sweetheart, like, sweetest. Did I mention he's, like, also very, very, very gay?
Yeah, I've seen it.
You didn't need me to tell you either, yeah?
No.
Yeah. But that has nothing to do with the story. I'm just trying to give other people a visual. And he's well, I don't want to say where he works, but I don't know. He's really into, like, creative art.
Right.
And so I know the one time, did you go over to his house? I can't remember.
No, he came to your apartment.
Oh, it's so much worse when I go over there, because it is like the very stereotypical idea of, because here's the system with this guy. He is a pot smoker, and I know a lot of dealers that I dealt with in the past don't smoke pot themselves. They just deal it.
Right.
But he is very much a pot smoker, and so the routine, even when he comes to my house, I give him the money, he gives me the stuff. I smoke him out. I smoke a bowl or two with him. Then we go out and smoke a cigarette, and then he leaves. But when I go over to his house, same obligation. I'm still there having to smoke him out.
Do you think you have to, or do you just always offer?
It's kind of like, it's your tip to the guy.
When I go pick up weed, sometimes like my guy, he'll offer to smoke me out of like a totally separate stash.
Yeah, and I get this from my guy too sometimes. But there always is
a nice cherry on top. Too.
Yeah. There's never not been an instance where we didn't smoke each other out.
Right.
One way or another. So
and by that you mean eat each other out.
Yes.
Like gay people.
Like gay people do.
Like lesbians though.
And one of the times I went over there recently, when I went over to his place, pretty sure whoever he was fucking was also there, like cooking him dinner. So that was kind of weird. But the main thing is, you know how you hear stories about people like, oh yeah, come listen to my demo. This is the band I was in.
Oh yeah,
like you get all that shit. It's kind of
pot dealer, the Pineapple Express pot dealer.
Right, exactly. The guy that just wants to be your buddy and that's exactly what it is. I go over to this guy's house. In the 10 minutes that I'm there smoking him out, he manages to show me he's really into rocks. So he shows me like some rare rocks that he found. I'm not selling this well, but it's real ridiculous. And then he's like, "Oh yeah, I set my camera up to catch the mountaintop, and I got a time capture. So it's been going all day, but can't you see the sun fading a little bit every few seconds?" And he's playing this right in front of me, and it's just, and then he showed me his art, and he also makes hats, and he makes all kinds of clothing. Like
he showed me lots of pictures when I met him too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He'll bring it with him. Even in the instances where I'm not stuck at his house of art, he's still pulling out his digital camera and showing me what he accomplished the night before, and that's great, man. That guy's got a lot of artistic integrity. I just can't handle it. I just want to get my pot and go, and he
Yeah,
doesn't
you don't
get
care
that.
so much. Do you ever think about like just trying to like talk to him and be like, "Can we make this strictly business?"
No, I don't want. I'm not gonna have that conversation with him.
Yeah.
The guy's done me well so far.
Well,
I can
yeah.
handle 10 minutes every 2 weeks with him. It's just that 10 minutes is pretty painful sometimes when he starts pulling out everything he's done in arts and crafts.
Yeah, I get that. When I always have awkward conversations with my drug dealers, they're always kind of like, nothing like yours, like gangster guys. And it's so agonizing to sit there and try to sound. I'm not even trying to sound cool around them, I guess, but I don't know. It's just a completely different situation. Every pot dealer in Yakima is like gangster, except for my guy now is not.
I don't know. When I developed the habit, and it is a habit, people say pot's not habitual. I'll fucking go nuts if I don't have it when something shows up on my Netflix that requires it.
Yeah.
When I started smoking pot, like initially I was still living in Yakima, but I was just getting it through you and my girlfriend. So I don't know. I never really dealt with any dealers firsthand in Yakima, but I could see them being all thugged out. I mean, it's 80%
Yeah.
Mexican.
Well, you lived next door to a guy in those apartments you lived in that was a pretty big weed dealer
See, I wish I'd known that at the
in
time.
his time, yeah.
Or probably at the time he was living there, I was totally anti-pot.
Yeah, that's
I'd have called the
possible,
cops
too.
on him if I'd caught him doing anything.
He would tell me, though, about, like, hearing you and your girlfriend fight.
Oh, yeah, I remember you telling me this. I don't believe that's true. This girlfriend of that time, we had spells where we didn't get along that well. In fact, we hated each other for a long time while she was basically living there. But I don't remember it ever erupting into fights. Like, it was always a passive-aggressive type deal.
Really?
Which, yeah, dirty stares don't really come across through the wall. I think he was lying to you, that guy.
Or I said something once about not liking her. He was like, I don't think you have to wait for long, bro. It's kind of how we talk, not really.
Really, I can't even visualize what this guy looks like, but it's interesting to think that he maybe there were some fights that went on. I'm trying to think of how ridiculous that must have sounded to him, because our fights were always over stupid shit. Are you much of a fighter with your wife?
More passive aggressive, like you say, which is just like
It's so much worse.
Embarrassing. Like when I think back on it, it's just like, ugh, just embarrassing. And that's kind of how mom and dad were too. Like when mom went. And saw
I don't know that the dad was so passive aggressive. He pretty much just was.
He was just an asshole all the time.
Yeah, I mean he
But
he
it
would
was-
bust out and start screaming and stuff, which is something I've never done.
Yeah, but he would also make his little snide comments all the time.
Yeah,
Mom
that's true.
went and saw a movie once, and his comment when she came home, I remember, was just "must be nice." It's like, come on, guy, really?
But yeah, even in my most recent relationship, I mean, I guess there are a few balls to the wall fights, but for the most part, like I really am that just the asshole that just bottles it up, you know?
Yeah.
And she knows what I'm thinking and she knows what I'm feeling just based on my actions, but I'm not willing to admit that anything is wrong. And then, my tendency is to let things bottle up for a really long time. And then in this situation, we actually broke up. And then I was like, and then she reached out to me, and that's when I snapped. I was like, oh, well, now that we're done, I can tell you everything I felt about this entire last 8 months or year or whatever it was. And so, yeah, I just busted out and said some horrible, horrible, harsh shit. And the fucked up thing is she kind of responded to that. Like, she's like, where was that intensity in the time that we were together?
Oh wow, she liked it. Huh?
She
liked
liked
the fire.
it. Yeah. So that's what reignited our relationship briefly. And then it fizzled again when she realized I'm basically the same guy.
Yeah, the passive aggressive thing is stupid. Like I hate when.
I hate it, but I can't stop myself from doing it.
Yeah, and I can't even think of, or I don't even want to think of any good examples.
I think you could
of
if
it.
you really.
But it's just like little comments where like, like if my wife was offering to cook me dinner or something like that, and just I was in some other strange, weird mood for some reason, And then I just kind of like, no, I don't want any dinner.
Yeah.
But then every 5 minutes, I'll still bitch about being hungry and stuff like that. Like, just to keep it miserable, just to, like, keep the tone of the room down. And I hate that. And, you know, Dad did shit like that. He would have more eruptions. I don't think I have any eruptions. You know, Dad sure would. But in the meantime, it was just, like, just this pathetic weakling, just little comments here and there, little bitch comments. Like, I hate that.
I do too, and yet I constantly find myself doing it. And I realize that I'm doing it even as I'm doing it oftentimes. I'm like, who's this douchebag?
Yeah. So hard to stop, too.
I know, and it's not like it's not transparent. I know that the girl knows what I'm doing.
Like
Fuck that, because...
how can she even take me seriously right now, is what I'll think. Or, like, if I think back on it later, like, how did she not just crack up laughing at my ridiculousness?
And every relationship that ends badly, when that person's, you know, out looking for a new love, not going to let this last relationship get me down. Their thing is, their prerequisite is always no mind games. I want to find somebody that loves snowboarding like I do, you know, likes the same Fellini. Whatever, and then, but it's always, I don't want anybody to play any mind games with me, because everybody that's ever been fucked over in a relationship blames it on mind games.
Yeah.
Did you ever get that? Like, don't fuck with my head.
I've never had a relationship end.
Outside of your wife, yeah.
No, yeah. One and only.
That's true. So I
Baby.
can't really go to you on stuff like this.
No, not really. In fact, it's always really interesting for me to hear the kind of things like if some girl's in love with you and coming on too strongly, like we were talking about earlier, and you're just being freaked the fuck out about it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, it just seemed like at any point in my life I would have been all over it. Like, oh, okay, drop everything for me, ruin your whole life for me. Somebody likes me, someone's paying attention to me.
Yeah, no, and I still kind of feel that way. Like, and I don't know. I think it's interesting that you focus on that, because I've had so few relationships as compared to other people my age. But you married the first person that you ever really dated, and you're still married to her.
Yeah.
So it's not like I can go to you for relationship advice.
No.
You know, you can give me advice on diaper rash or whatever.
You are the super experienced person in my life.
Which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I can give some numbers. I've had sex with 3 people.
Nice.
I've kissed 6 people.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's where my numbers are at. And I'm approaching 30, man. That's no good.
Well,
for somebody that's been single as long as I have,
but
not married.
You've had long relationships, and
how long of a relationship?
You ever watch like the Pickup Artists or anything?
No, I hear about it.
Other people talk about it, but like you gotta throw out some nags at a girl.
Yeah.
Tell her you're ass ugly girl.
Yeah.
And just watch the pussy flow.
So to shit on a woman, and apparently in a public place, like you do this in front of her friends.
On the Pickup Artists, yeah,
girls come in packs.
Yeah, they're supposed to approach like the entire group of friends
and just throw a negative comment their way, huh?
Yeah, but at the same time, still being kind of like jokey and lovable, and
yeah.
And if there's a guy in the group, you're supposed to talk to the guys first to win their approval.
It always infuriated me, even back in my teenage days. And it is true. Like every girl tries to deny it, but for the most part, girls do dig assholes, and it really is
yeah.
For such a long time, and I'm not saying I'm even an asshole now. I like to think I'm a pretty sweet, adorable, lovable guy.
I think I'm an asshole.
Yeah, you're definitely an asshole.
I think even if I was single and I couldn't even imagine trying to like pick up women, but I would be known as an asshole.
And just to be clear, I've never picked up a woman.
That's true. You answer personal ads.
Sure, of course I do. That's easy enough.
That wouldn't be easy to me at all. Like, it would be so awkward meeting. Is she gonna see me, see what I look like, turn around and leave?
That's definitely the worst part when it comes to those kinds of arrangements. It's always the first meeting that's terrible. But then if one were to ever go bad, then I would just forget it ever happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that. I can block it right out of my head. No, it never went poorly. The thing is, when it comes to online personal ads, I'm a fucking stallion, because I'm not hideous looking, and I also know how to spell. And so like those two things, when it comes to girl with even half a brain, if they're posting something on Craigslist or something, they're gonna respond to that. They're gonna be like, I'd rather go with this guy than the guy asking for a snatch pic like 2 emails in.
The Darren Coxes of the world.
Yeah. Way to drop a first and last name.
He's a perv. Google
But
him.
that's how I have the upper hand in those situations. That's why the online dating, not that it's worked out for me, but it could have in certain
Sure, it
situations.
did. You got a long relationship out of one of them.
Which one?
The last one. Your
Oh
last
yeah, not that
relationship?
long. I mean, 8 months officially, and then whatever is happening now and has been
Yeah,
happening.
it seems to have been going on longer than 8 months.
Yeah, a little bit.
At least since my daughter was born.
Oh yeah, in fact, cute story,
Oh yeah.
or would be if we were still dating, is that girl and I started dating the very day that my niece was born.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
adorable. So that's 14 months.
Yeah, but we're not dating now.
That's true.
We barely even fuck anymore.
Is she the only girl you fuck?
What do you mean?
Not your pretend lesbian girlfriend anymore?
No,
Your
no,
pretend
no, no.
lesbian ex-girlfriend.
In fact, no. As I said, my number's at 3, and you know the 3.
Yeah.
Since I started fucking this most recent girl, I haven't fucked anybody else, and that's been over a year.
Really?
Yeah, that's been it.
Has she?
Not that I know of. Who's to say? We have both kissed other people in that time, but
Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah, I remember when you were in limbo and you brought some random girl to my house.
yeah, how'd that go for you?
Oh, man, that girl was annoying as piss.
Yeah, she was.
But, I mean, not so bad otherwise. Just real annoying. We saw the
It was just the everyday conversation with her that was annoying.
Yeah, she was real self-deprecating, too.
Like
We
to a
saw-
point where it was distracting. I'm self-deprecating.
Was she talking nonstop throughout the Dark Knight? Because she was, like, throughout the rest of my life that weekend. But I wasn't sitting...
That's right. We did see The Dark Knight with her.
But I wasn't sitting next to her. I was sitting next to you.
No,
But how could she have shut up during the theater?
I don't know. That's the thing. Like,
The theater, it was the Dark Knight Live.
yeah, no, yeah. It's not really her form having to sit for 2.5 hours and not be able to talk. That's why that one didn't work. But whatever. We're Facebook friends. You better be careful.
Oh, you are with her?
Yeah,
She used to be one of our MySpace friends on the show.
she
She
still
was
is.
there for a recording of one episode. Disastrous. Would not shut up.
I know. It was bad. It was bad.
Well, the thing is, we had like microphone opportunity.
And she carried
for
vodka
her.
in her purse all the time.
Yeah, she did. I just recently finished off some vodka that she left at my house.
But at the time, like, it was weird because I had just broken up with the other girl not that long before, so I was still kind of bitter about that. And then so I meet this girl, and we start going out, and it couldn't have gone on for more than a month or two. But all the things that
Never had sex with her.
No, never.
She had kind of big boobs.
I know. I definitely felt up her boobs.
Nice.
But I didn't. I say I didn't let it get to sex, but really, of the 3 girls, no, actually, 2 of the 3 girls that have had sex with me knows that it takes me a really long time to get comfortable with them before I will actually have sex with them. And I don't know what that is. Like, I don't know. I have this crazy anxiety, even if I'm hanging out with that girl all the time and have gotten used to
Yeah.
them in every other respect. It takes me a really long time to get comfortable enough. But that in-between girl, the one that I had that weird thing with,
Right.
and she was in a relationship at the time, still is. We don't need to get too detailed, but there was a reason that it didn't work
Let's
as a
get
relationship.
very detailed.
But
Wait, listen up. We're about to spill everything. Okay, you're safe.
I forget what I was going to say about that.
Sorry. You didn't feel that you had to get comfortable with her?
No, that's right.
Also, not a bad girl to look at.
Have you met her in person?
No, but from like the one picture I've ever seen.
No, she's an attractive girl. That's not the issue. The issue was that she was in a relationship, and but for whatever reason, I was just coming out of my first real relationship. All of a sudden, I'm hanging out with her at a bar, and like she's holding my hand and she's grabbing my shit under a table at this bar, and I wasn't expecting it, mainly because she was in a relationship. And then I'm not this type of guy at all, especially at this point in my life. Like,
Yeah.
there was very little I'd ever done with. Well, that's not true. I've been having sex, but always with the one girl.
Right.
So this was somebody new for the first time, and so yeah, all of a sudden, like we're making out on the side of the bar, and my hands up her shirt and shit. It just progressed really fast from there. Like she started showing up at the house, and making me banana bread, and
My wife makes you banana bread, you son of a bitch.
No, never. But yeah, so that ended about as quickly as it started. But yeah, for whatever reason, I was into it. I think a lot of it was rebound, quite honestly.
Yeah.
Like I was just fucking pissed at the other girl. So it's weird. But then I didn't sleep with anybody for a long time after that. Well, except for after getting back with my first ex-girlfriend after that.
Right.
But then there was a few month window, no sex at all. Then I started seeing this most recent girl, and we were probably together for, embarrassing to say, but I'm going to say it, like a month or a month and a half before we had sex. And not because she wasn't all over it. Like she was ready and willing to go, which, you know, what does that say about her?
Yeah.
Maybe that's what freaked me out a little bit. But it took me a long time to get comfortable. And once I did, I mean, we still occasionally have sex, and we're not even seeing each other anymore. But that's only because now I'm good to go with her. It just takes me a little bit.
It's just like Swingtown.
A little bit, like Swingtown, yeah.
That's something I cannot relate to in the slightest. I'm more like those 90-year-old people that you meet. I didn't have sex until I got married. Like, it wasn't even just, like, with my wife. You know, she was my only
That you
girlfriend.
eventually then got married to, yeah.
Right, yeah. Waited till marriage.
And that was as much her as it was you, right? It wasn't just because of your
Yeah,
crazy half-ass religious beliefs maybe still going on?
No, mine were... After we were married, they maybe surfaced a little, my religious, whatever the fuck it
Because that was your excuse?
ridiculousness. I'd say I would have been very happy to be having sex before marriage. I often said a lot of times that, like, I mean, we got married really quick, and it's because our parents hated
How
us.
long were you dating before you got married?
9 months,
All
something
right.
like that. Maybe 10. You know, I would have liked to done the whole live together first thing and stuff like that, but
Just to feel it out?
yeah, but that wasn't an option. Her parents really fucking hated me just because I was white. And
But now they love you, correct?
Incorrect.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
I should check
did you
my
really
facts.
not know that?
No, I did.
Yeah,
I was just waiting for you to bring it up.
yeah, you asshole. They fucking hate me. But yeah, no, I'm happy we got married. I'm real glad we didn't have a kid immediately after we got married, like every other fucking person that I know.
Yeah.
In fact, people, especially in Yakima, when like I'm 20 years old and I'm married, and you know, oh yeah, I got married. Oh, after 9 months of knowing her, they all want to know when the babies do. You know,
Of course,
it's
yeah.
just like ridiculous that you would get married without that being the case. But it was 5 years later till we had Sophie.
Oh, and she was worth the wait, my friend. What a
Worth
bundle of joy that
the
was.
wait. Yeah, I could not imagine having a 6-year-old kid right now, which is like if I was the normal case of someone who got married because they had a kid.
Plus, it seems like kind of a bummer to get married to somebody, especially if you're getting married, not necessarily because somebody's pregnant, but if you're getting married and your wife, your girlfriend and then wife is already pregnant.
Yeah, and even especially like in a religion, like if you're Jehovah's Witness and that happens,
Well, then
like,
you're disfellowshipped.
yeah, but not always. There are some people who aren't, and you know, but getting married is like one obvious thing you have to do,
Right.
and that would be not that we had to worry about it, but had my wife gotten pregnant before we were ever married, and that's why we had to get married, that would be a bummer, no matter what, like. Just to be doing
Yeah,
it
or
like
even
that.
people that like I think
Just to feel that like you have to do it because people are saying this, her parents are saying this, your parents are saying that. Just to be like, you know, it's a marriage. You're gonna start a family, and it's something that you're forced into doing. It's just the complete wrong way to start it. But that's what you know. Every fucking girl that works at Olive Garden in Yakima is 17 years old and married with 2 kids.
you
It's
don't see that so much in
ridiculous.
here, Seattle.
Yeah. Oh no, Yakima is the teenage pregnancy capital of Washington.
Is that factual?
That's what I've heard. Is that's 100% true.
And then you got cases like our uncle and his wife, And the story goes back. I mean, he's a hardcore Jehovah's Witness even today, and so the rule is no sex before marriage.
Who are we talking about? Uncle Barry? We can
No,
say names.
Russ.
Oh, okay.
And the story is that his first daughter, they have two, was conceived on their honeymoon.
Right.
And a lot of that has to be like, I believe it when our Uncle Russ says that he did not have sex before marriage or even fuck around.
Well, apparently they knew nothing about birth control.
I don't know what they were thinking. But yeah, that's it. Like, literally, he fucking planted a seed the night of their honeymoon. 9 months later, you got a kid. And then a year and a half after that, you have another kid. And that's the rest of your life.
I look at these girls at work that are, in reality, 18 with a 1-year-old kid or something like that. When they're my age, I have a daughter who's 1. Imagine if my kid was 9 years old.
Yeah.
Because that's where they're going to be. And you know what? They're not. I live in a pretty small apartment, but I just have a baby. They would be living in an even smaller apartment.
Man, it's crazy. Even speaking of your apartment building, your apartment is pretty good size considering that it's you and your wife and your daughter.
Yeah, I mean, but small. Even with 1 kid, I mean, she's.
But then you compare that to the people that did live downstairs from you for a long time,
and everyone who still does.
Yeah, same size apartment, which I know you have. Which, like I said, for the 3 of you, is a good size. And they've got just shit tons of kids.
Yeah.
And brothers and sisters crashing there. And
yeah, all the time. There's one apartment. It's the same small 2-bedroom model as mine. God, I'm going to say there's like 4 kids and 3 adults in there. I mean, it's nuts. And my apartment does get small with my kid.
Yeah, well, only because now she walks and is fucking into everything.
Yeah.
He just wish there was more room for her to spread out.
By the time
or
she
a pool
needs
for her to fall into.
By the time she needs like training bras and shit like that, we're gonna have to live in a fucking mansion with separate wings of the house.
Just so you could avoid that.
Yeah, that awkwardness.
Has your wife prepared the period talk? She got a book on it?
I don't know.
I guess it is a solid 11 or 12 years off.
My wife, her mother's period talk to her, I believe, was like real nuts. I think her mom, I don't know, accused her of being a charlatan or something because of it. I really don't know, but something about they couldn't use tampons growing up because they cause cancer. And I don't know, her mom's real ridiculous. But then again, if you ask her mom, if you put a lemon on the sole of your foot, that'll cure cancer. So big fucking deal. If you have a sty in your eye, which I often do, you're supposed to rub a dime on it.
Oh, yeah. I remember you telling me that.
Work.
Really?
A little.
Sounds like Mexican folklore to me.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.